race.
This vital race right after the break.
James Hunt's father had not approved of his son's career choice.
Good afternoon and welcome to the most memorable climax of a Grand Prix season for over 10 years.
But in the early hours of Sunday, October the 24th, Mr. Wallace Hunt was eager to toast a world title triumph.
How long have we got on the break?
Do you want a swig, mate?
What a good idea.
This is the big one.
It doesn't sound like my dad to carry a hip flask, so if he was, then he was definitely feeling the strain.
The weather was absolutely appalling. The circuit was literally awash.
Still suffering nightmares from his near-fatal crash, Niki Lauda wanted the race abandoned. So did James Hunt. It now emerges McLaren had to force their driver, on the brink of the world title, to go to the start line.
Well, that's news to me. I hadn't heard that story, but it doesn't entirely surprise me.
It was raining like mad, and James was on the safety committee of the Grand Prix Drivers Association. They were arguing for no race. And of course I was arguing we've got to have the race because we can't win the World Championship if we don't have a race.
James is arguing for no race?
No race.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised to hear it because the course was suicidal.
You know, it's easy when you're sitting on the grid to suddenly get a premonition. And you mustn't think about it. If something like that comes into your head, the first thing you've got to do is get rid of it.
So what do you think got James to the start line in the end?
Sounds like Caldwell did.
One other incident played its part. Hunt needed a distraction from the mounting tensions. He found it.
Patrick Head wandered into a garage by mistake, thinking it empty. He was surprised to find James Hunt inside with his racing overalls down round his ankles and a young Japanese girl kneeling in front of him. Hunt laughed when he saw him, but Head hummed and hawed and quickly left in a daze, not quite believing what he had seen.
And they're off!
At 4 p.m. in the gathering gloom, the Japanese Grand Prix began. 1 lap later, Lauda quit, calling the race suicide.
James Hunt twitching, almost out of control.
Shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but I was really annoyed with James because we had a sign that said cool tyres, and we showed this to him and he didn't react. In the end, we were showing him nothing else, but he still did not respond.
Why?
I don't know. I never discussed it with him. I was so angry with him.
It may not have been that easy to see a pitboard every time, but equally, yeah, James being disobedient, what's new?
With just 4 laps to go, Hunt finally obeyed team orders.
Look at that, right front tyre, no tread on it at all. And the other one is flat.
The McLaren left the pit lane in 5th. Hunt needed to finish 3rd to be world champion.
Hunt going past Alan Jones. That assures him of 3rd place.
We were lucky, and so was he.
Our new world champion, James Hunt, by just 1 single point.
When he finished, he didn't realise that he'd finished 3rd and thereby had become world champion.
Though his pitboard had nothing on it but P3, 3rd, which is the right position.
Give me a drink, James. Thank you. Did we really win?
Well, he did all that any sportsman could be asked to do. He didn't choke, and he delivered on the day. Having been a choker at times earlier in his career, he finally delivered in the toughest possible circumstances.
Soon after the race, we managed to get James Hunt on the line from Tokyo.
From half distance onwards, I knew.
James Hunt became Britain's 6th Formula One world champion.
Well, the family celebrations have actually started, have they not? Somehow or another, I think we'll have a rather more eventful Sunday than we usually do.
To half the world, it probably meant that this is terrific. The other half, oh God, what's he going to do, frankly?
And can I just finally ask you, what are your immediate plans now?
I shall be getting drunk.
There's much more to being world champion than riding a bike.
Very tired and somewhat hungover, thank you very much. What was the party like? It was long, but good.
Britain's Sports Personality of the Year for 1976 was ice skater John Curry.
Come on, lads.
His Olympic gold medal attracted the purest vote.
Thank you.
The world of celebrity awaited Hunt and Sheene.
He was the first of the glamorous world champions. There was George Best in football and James Hunt in cars and Barry in bikes, and they were the three, weren't they? Long-haired, good-looking womanisers.
In fact, my sister dated James for about 3 weeks, and one of her friends said to her, "You and your sister are going out with the two fastest men in Britain."
Oh, it was a big honour to be on
This Is Your Life.
This Is Your Life with Eamon Andrews.
And Club Barry Sheene, MBE, tonight. This Is Your Life.
I think fame changes everybody. It has to.
I saw him more as a ballet dancer.
Oh, you're kidding me.
And he was mixing with the so-called jet set, I suppose, yeah.
Former Beatle George Harrison is a fan and a friend.
George Harrison came along to watch the racing 76, 77.
George. Oh, it's George, is it? Yeah. Great.
They loved Barry Sheene. They liked the gung-ho world that he lived in.
Yeah, and don't forget the Packer-Max for the,
Starstruck. He definitely made it then, yeah, when the Beatle knows who you are.
He liked being in the public eye and people knowing who he was. It was a buzz for him, I think.
There was some kind of James Hunt night at the Albert Hall I went to once.
You're very fond of blowing your own trumpet, aren't you?
But again, he like a duck to water. He played his trumpet in the Albert Hall and everyone loved it. I'm sure it wasn't that virtuoso, but it was good enough.
Niki Lauda wanted to say a special thank you to Pat, Jane, Mary, Nellie, Chantal, Deirdre, Gina, Bridget and Raquel. Without whose help, James Hunt would have won many more Grand Prix.
I'm sorry, you'll have to excuse me if I break down. I haven't done it before, but I don't know that I can do it, quite honestly.
His behaviour at times was outrageous and, deplorable. But somehow he had a charm and a naughty schoolboy element that attracted the inner naughty schoolboy or schoolgirl in all of us, I think.
Can I stop there? Very difficult. Anybody got any questions?
Isn't everybody's idea in life is to have sort of fun with what they're doing, and they decided they were going to.
I think the thing that attracted me most to Barry was Stephanie.
It was more of a learning curve to see what they could get away with, in a way.
I was particularly thrilled with David Wilkes' win for Britain in the Olympic Games. David has nothing to worry about from me in the swimming stakes. My swimming instructor once told me that I swam like a brick. At least I think that was what he said.
Barry and James worked the circuit superbly.
Mr. Barry Sheene.
For both, it was about making every second count, because on every chat show, in every interview, one issue was never far away.
What about crashing?
What's the closest you've been to death?
You've been nearer to death than I have.
Yes.
That could happen again.
Yes.
Motor racing is a dangerous business, and I want to get my results, grab my money, and run before I get hurt.
The first year I raced in 1968, there were 22
cars on the grid at the first race at Hockenheim. And of those 22 drivers, 3 were dead by July. And that went all through the 70s. It was horrific.
During James Hunt's Formula One career, 12 drivers were killed and many more seriously injured.
Every year, 2 guys died. And if you say you have a career of 10 years and you have 24 drivers, you can calculate when it's your time.
And fire was the biggest fear for all of them. Being killed instantly in an impact is fine relative to burning to death.
It's my life that's at stake. If they want to go and risk their own, tell them to go and do it somewhere else, but don't play with my life.
During Sheene's peak years, 41 riders were killed in action. He spent much of his career lobbying for improved safety.
I know it was dangerous, but I didn't really realise how dangerous until we were at a race in Belgium. We used to sit on this wall, timekeeping, they'd come round, and this bike came round the corner and just without a rider, and it just went into the wall like that, and it scraped down the wall, and it sliced off people's legs. But 8 people got killed. That's when you sort of think, oh, wow, you actually see it firsthand, that sort of destruction.
I counted up and I lost probably about 25, 30 mates. I'm not talking about people I knew, but mates that got killed in motorcycle racing, and it just happened. But we just cast it aside, and we never went to funerals either. Couldn't go to funerals because that would definitely put you off.
There were no safe circuits, and we used to lose a driver a year, pretty much. Some years more than one. Nobody in a position of influence should allow that to happen.
As president of Formula One's governing body, the FIA, Max Mosley oversaw a transformation in safety standards. Since 1993, there have been 2 fatalities in Formula One and 3 in Grand Prix motorcycling. The pursuit of safety now keeps pace with the need for speed.